What were some of the things that your great aunt taught you?
Oh, she was a wonderful woman because she was not educated well, but when she got here, she was able to buy property. She said that she was sorry that she lost a piece of property that was down in South Los Angeles, but she had bought the house on Temple Street and she was able to keep that one. She had a beauty shop. She opened a beauty shop there.
Oh.
And also worked for some projects. I think they had it at that time. The government had the NRA and the SERA and all those different, or different ways to help people. So I remember her telling me that, and she would sew all the time. She said that's the Sewing Emergency Relief Association, SERA. And so that's what she did. But between that and the beauty shop, she was able to keep that property. And so that's how I happened to end up in this part of the world.
When were you married? What year?
1942, 43, somewhere like that. And it was during the war. So I might mention that my father was in the First World War. And then he died very young. And then my husband was in the Second World War. And my son was in Vietnam War. And grandson said he's not going anywhere, but he joined the Air Force. But he's not seen service.
Hi Larry. Thanks for being here, and it just seems like anybody in Silver Lake knows about you and knows what you've done here.
My family had basically all moved here in the 40s. My mother's from West Virginia, my father's from North Dakota. My father's family homesteaded in North Dakota. And they're all Lebanese, and my family moved here, and they lived right across the street from General Hospital. And then they moved in the 40s, all the Nicolas moved into one apartment over on Malbert, right off Vermont.
So what year were you born?
1949. Yeah, when I was about like 2 years old, we moved to Tracy Street, 3926 Tracy Street, and we lived right across the street from the front door of Marshall High. There's a picture I should find it. It's of me, my brother, two brothers. Every morning they would play the trumpet out in front of the school, and my mother had us out there in our pajamas every morning saluting the flag. It was such a great neighborhood that, in those days you could kind of run free and it was safe, There was the hobbies, where the cheese store is now?
Yeah.
Say Cheese was a hobby store.
And then you said your father and your uncle then owned a market, right?
Yes.
And where was that market?
On Sunset and Fountain.
I see.
There was the Keystone Cleaners, and then there was the Cola Twins Market. 4333 Sunset Boulevard.
And what did you have in the market?
It was like a community center. We specialized in meats. All the kids that came in either got a slice of bologna or went into the one of the walk-ins, dipped their hand in a pickle barrel and got a pickle.
Did your mom work there too?
My mom, my aunt, my cousins. But when I was a kid, she washed my hands and put the love for the feeding people into my hands, and that's why I can cook. I feed people. I graduated in '67. I did one semester at LACC, and then I moved to Santa Barbara City College and lived in Isla Vista. I got drafted.
You got drafted?
Yeah, I was drafted.
In what year?
'69.
Oh.
They sent me to cook school, of all things. They sent me to Northern Germany with the British Army, and which was great because then I cooked every other day and with the British, and it was just for 30 people, and I hung out with a German rock band. People used to love to come to our mess hall because, I don't know, we just touched food better.
When did you find the property for?
Well, I had a wholesale produce company. I was a purveyor to like a lot of the restaurants, like Yesterday's, Old World's, Chasen's. Those are all my accounts.
Oh.
And I had parking spaces in the produce market. I had 3 trucks. And I met this guy that managed a chart house and we're still friends today. And he wanted to get in the produce business, and I knew how to buy the produce. So I bought the produce. We started a one truck, one case to Chart House, and ended up we grew the business really fast. Yeah, I always wanted to have a restaurant. When I was 8 years old, I knew I wanted to have a restaurant. I was going to call it Larry's Octagon. And Larry's Octagon was a big restaurant. It had 8 different corners, and I always thought it should be on the corner of Franklin and Vermont, because it needed to be big, but it had 8 different kitchens with the United Nations of seating in the middle. It's like farmers market, but a little more upscale. That was when I was 8 years old. That was what I wanted to do. So when I was in the produce business, I got a postcard from somebody in Austria, and I was at my dad's store, standing there. I saw this postcard and looked across the street, and it was the same building as that one in the picture, but boarded up.
Oh.
So, I mean,
The light bulb went.
yes, I went across the street and I said, well, what's going on with this building? They said, well, we're going to move out of here in about a month. I found an investor, and he put up some money, and we built it. Michael Rotundi, who's a very important part of this whole community.
We might just say Michael Rotundi is a famous architect now, I guess, and he's worked on several of your restaurants.
Yeah.
And he was your classmate at Marshall, or one of your
He was the
classmates
quarterback.
at Marshall High School. But the design of LA Nicola was very, very sort of high tech.
It was on the cover of Wet Magazine. It says Building Petrus Building in East Hollywood. It was a brick building, and then it was a deconstructed shed that went through it, juxtaposed. That's when everybody learned that new word, juxtaposed, into the building, and it was.
It was raw, right?
It was raw.
A little bit like this. It was one of the first restaurants where the pipes were showing.
Yeah.
The ceiling was gutted out.
Yeah. It was just about preparing good food, you know, and use restraint, which was taught to me by Michael Rotundi in architecture, using restraint to not to do much. I still tell my chefs.
Keep it simple.
Yeah, and we tell everybody put Buddha on everything.
Sakai Shigekawa.
Dr. Shigekawa.
I spent 4 years at USC, and first year they didn't have a medical school,
Oh.
and second year they only took 2 women. So then I was out, so I applied in Chicago, Stritch Loyola in Chicago, and I went to medical school for 4 years, and then after I graduated, I started practicing, and I had my internship in Bay City, Michigan. I had to have a general residency.
Internship.
But the war started, so everyone of Japanese descent had to leave. So then I went to Seaside Memorial in Long Beach. And of course, the war started, so we had to evacuate from that area and go to concentration camp.
And which camp were you
I
sent
was
to?
in Santa Anita racetracks, and I was very upset, of course, and bitter at the time. But I started to work and take care of patients, and there were 3 of us.
3 medical doctors?
Mhm.
Were you the only woman?
I was the only one.
And how was it that you came to Silver Lake then?
Well, see, my folks had that house on Benton Way
Oh, they did.
down the street here. It's a 2-story house. They couldn't even live in it
Oh,
because
that
of
was
the
the
war.
that was the house that they built.
Yes,
I
and this
see.
was an empty lot, so I decided to build a house here.
I see.
So,
Do you remember their address on Benton?